Hi Bethany family, Jill here, filling in for Brian today. I hope you're all doing well after the storms last night. Hopefully your power's getting back on if it was out, and that you're getting your yards and things cleaned up today. I know we'll all be pretty busy with stuff like that today, but hope you're safe and doing well. Today's devotional, I just want to focus on the theme of wisdom. This year, we all need a lot of wisdom, don't we? And I know on Sunday, Joe mentioned that we really need prayer for wisdom for opening the children's and youth ministries. So we would covet your prayers for that. We do need wisdom. Maybe you need wisdom for things, a ministry you're involved in. Maybe your child's education or a job situation, or just your daily tasks that all seem so much more complicated now. We just need a lot of wisdom. And so I want to look at two stories from the book of John to just give us some perspective. And the first story or passage comes from the story of Jesus and the woman at the well. It's one of my favorite stories in the Bible because my favorite way to connect with people is just one-on-one. And I've always thought it'd be so cool to just have that one-on-one conversation with Jesus like she did, with no one else around. He really just got to her heart. He revealed things about her past, her sins. But he also revealed who he was to her, and so it was just this intimate conversation, and that's what I would have loved to have with Jesus. But in part of that conversation, she had some questions for him, and one of the questions that was on her mind, it comes from John chapter 4, verses 19 and 20, and she said, "Sir, I can see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." And so here's a case of, there's two sides to this conversation. Where should we worship? The Samaritans say one thing, the Jews say another. Okay, Jesus, who's right? And don't we do that a lot? We look at a situation. There's two sides. Like right now, there's so much in our world where there's two sides to everything. There's for politics, there's the right and the left. There's, just for everything associated with the virus, there's the really cautious and there's the carefree. And there's just two sides to almost every situation you look at. And so we take those things and we go to Jesus and we say, okay, who's right? And which way should I believe? But I love how Jesus responds, and he basically says, "You're both wrong," and he gives a different perspective. So she's asking about worship, and he says, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem." So you're both wrong. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. And so Jesus is saying, it's not about where you worship, it's about your heart. And that's what he always did. He got to the heart of the issues. And so as we seek wisdom for things, we really need to come before God and ask him to get to our hearts. Ask him to reveal our hearts. I'm going to pause this because my cat is meowing to get out of the room. So I'll be right back. Okay. So that's what Jesus is getting at, is our heart. And so, when you're seeking answers, it's not always about this or that, like who's right. It's about your heart before God. And so that's what we really need to focus on, instead of, which side of the issue is the right side to be on. Because Jesus, God is above looking down. It's a whole different perspective. Like if you're standing out in a field or looking at your city, even now after the storm, it's a different perspective to be down on the ground compared to being like up high in an airplane or looking up from a tall building or something. And that's what God gives us. He's looking down from the heavens, from above, and he has a whole different perspective on our situation and just all the things that we deal with. And so it's best to go to him and get his perspective on the issue. So the other little passage I want to mention is also in John. It's John chapter 9. And this is about a man born blind. And it says, as Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" So again, they want an answer. So in this situation, they want to know who to blame for why this man was born blind. So they say, was it his fault that he's born blind? Was his parents' fault? Whose fault was it? And again, Jesus says, you're both wrong. And he says, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. And I just love that because, again, in our times right now, a lot of people are looking for who to blame. Do we blame the Democrats or the Republicans for the mess that our country's in? Well, God would probably say neither, and he would probably remind us to look for how he's at work right now, not to worry about who we're supposed to blame, but how he's at work and how to join him in that work and how to glorify him and give him praise for what he's doing. And so I just love how Jesus lifts our eyes to a whole different perspective, because that's where our wisdom is going to come from. And he even says, a couple verses after that, he reminds them that he's the light of the world. And that's what he does. He sheds light on our situations, and he helps us see things differently. And so I'm just going to end now with a passage from James that you're probably familiar with, the one about wisdom. And it just reminds us that there are two kinds of wisdom, the earthly kind, the earthly perspective, and the heavenly perspective. So I'd encourage you to read this too on your own. James chapter 3, verses 13 through 18. It says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by his good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, of the devil." So all the stuff, the mess and the arguments and conversations, a lot of that is just earthly stuff. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder, which we see a lot of, and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. And so that's just a good check for us, to see, our responses to things, the decisions that we're making, is what's coming out of that. Is it pure? Is it peace-loving? Is it considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere? Because that's the kind of life that we need to live as believers. And when we seek God's wisdom, that's what He's going to give us. He's not going to give us answers that cause strife and division. He's going to give us answers that promote peace and love, His kind of peace, His kind of love, which looks different than the world's. And He's going to do what's best for His kingdom and for us personally, because He loves us. So I just want to encourage you to seek His wisdom if you have some decisions to make, or just each day for the things you have to do. Don't get caught up in the world's mess, but lift your eyes and look above and seek Him, seek His Word, seek Him through prayer, and He'll give you the wisdom that you need. Thanks.